Okay, I've got two haikus from Gordon.
Right.
February chills. Death called twice within a year. Wings did not sustain. And Tom Moore has now gone. His final foe was unseen. His name and deeds live.
Cheerful.
And then a poem from Joe Sanders called
Right.
Lord Have Mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Kiri Ellison, Christe Ellison, Kiri Ellison. The choir sings Palestrina, music pure and perfect, sublimely unwinding. My brow unfurrows as I slowly breathe out, problems subsumed into the sound, immersed in light and colour, fluttering candles, red vestments reflected in checkered marble. We are raised up in the aromatic incense. I have to read the second lesson, St. Paul being smug again. I should like the Holy Spirit to enlighten my reading, although I'm thinking of the diction, of the shape and fall of the words, of myself. The priest reads the gospel. The word began everything. The word was God, but in the beginning there was no one to hear. When were angels created? Does it say? The jingling bell reminds me that this is the holiest moment of the Mass, the miracle that will always happen, bread and wine transformed into flesh and blood, enabling other small miracles throughout the world, courage and love, and suffering endured. After ending with a blessing, the organ surges. Coruscations of sounds glitter amid the thunder. I want to listen forever.
Oh, I like that. That's very nice. Wow, there's a lot in that poem, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah. Can I remind everyone when poets are reading, if we could all remember to mute? I know it's difficult, but it does help the sound a little bit. And welcome, Lorraine. Lovely to see you. Can you unmute and we can just check how your mic is, Lorraine?
Well, I just muted it now.
Oh, that's excellent. That's not too
Good,
bad
because
at all.
I went into the Zoom settings first. I hope they're okay.
That's perfect. Well
Good,
done.
excellent,
Well
good.
done. I'm pleased about that. And John Greatrix, good evening, John. Welcome.
Yes.
I can see your lampshade, but I can't see you, John.
There he is.
Welcome, John.
Where's John?
John.
Oh, there's John.
Hey,
And Lorraine.
can we just check your sound? Can you just say something like good evening or
Unmute.
This is me. Yes,
Yeah.
John. Thank you, Lorraine, for the play. I enjoyed it.
Okay, nice and clear. Thank you, John. Jim,
Okay.
good evening. Jim, how's your sound?
It's okay, I think.
Excellent. Yeah, it's come through
Fine.
nicely. So we're all cooking on gas, as they say. I don't think Irma's quite ready yet. So
I am ready.
You are ready, right?
Yeah,
Okay, come on then.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, Kiki. I'm terribly sorry, Kiki.
No, you're kicking the dog.
Sorry.
Right. Well, I just have to go across the screen so I can see what you look like. There you are.
Yes.
Perfect.
Hello, Irma.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello.
You know, what I've been busily doing just now is sort of writing little bits of Isaiah. I've fallen in love with Isaiah. And I would like to read a little bit. So it's called the Road of Holiness. And in chapter 35:2, it says, "The desert will sing and shout for joy. It will be as beautiful as the Lebanon mountains and as fertile as the fields of Carmel and Sharon. Springs of water will flow through the desert. The burning sand will become a lake, and the dry land will not be marshes." Thank you.
Have you got anything of yours, Irma, you want to read, or do you want to?
Yes.
That would be lovely. Thank you. Good as Isaiah is, he is not Irma Upek's Huggins. So.
Oh, leave it out, George. Leave it out. Right. So what I've been doing over these last few weeks is sort of like thinking about my early childhood and how naughty I am. And I've been doing a lot of writing around that. And what I've come up with is that, thank God I had boy children, because I don't know how I would cope with a girl if this girl was anything like me.
Oh,
So I shall sort of like read something here. This one is relates to people traveling from the Caribbean in the early 40s, I think, to come to England. And in the village that I sort of, one of the villages I lived in, there seemed to be just one grip. Does anyone know what a grip is?
no.
Jane does.
Jane does. Jane does. You going to say, Jane? Ooh, unmute.
Everyone's muted, yeah.
A suitcase. A
A
case. Call it
a
a grip.
suitcase. And it seems that everyone borrows this one grip.
Yes.
So, and then take it to England. And the message is always, don't forget to send back the grip. So I've written around that. This poem is around that. Don't forget to send back the grip. Silence come from the edge of a moonlit conversation before a soft humming. Now is the hour. Getting louder. Take over. A sip of rum bring the tears rolling down. This can mean two things. As night by night in the moonlight, I cock my ear and lean into the edge of grown-up conversations. The song can mean somebody dead or somebody leaving soon, sailing across the Atlantic waves to England. I get all dreamy-eyed, and looking to the skies, I watch clouds go sailing past the moon. Remember, send back the grip, come to my mind. I am not wrong. Gloria Jeffers going to England tomorrow. The village is sending she off. The village owns the grip. And when Smaddy going to England, the message always is, don't forget, send back the grip. And the grip comes back, full of cast-offs like a jumble sale, with a shilling or two for family to start paying off the loan. The cast-offs is welcome, a comfort bringing news, telling family and friends all is well. I'm making it. Life is good in England. Mama Jean getting married today. The ceremony will not count the long years, the fruitful married life she lived with Papa Joe. The missionary lady tells she, this old-fashioned Christian woman, she living in sin. And her life will be a plague of worms that need more than a washout with castor oil. Mama Jean wedding dress come back in the grip. The day they got married, I stand outside the church watching a way of life, a pillar of the community, great-grandmother, village elder, face as black without the moon, standing in the judgment or the mockery of blancmange instead of cake on a wedding table. It was then I hated missionaries. The Empire Windrush now is waiting and will sail tomorrow through the turquoise blue of the Caribbean with hundreds and hundreds of island people. People from St. Kitts, from Nevis, from Antigua, And people from littler islands will first take a plane that stops Little England, and then they will sail on the Empire Wind Rush straight from Jamaica to England. Thank you.
Well done, Irma. Thank you. Lovely poem. Lot of history in there. I love that line, faces black without the moon. Love that. It's a nice metaphor. Vivian, are you good to go? Vivian, could you unmute?
Unmute.
Yeah,
That's
sorry.
it.
Yeah,
You're
I
okay
was sort of
now.
shouting and waving and wondering why no one was listening. Yeah, I've got 2 poems. The first one actually is quite topical, even though it wasn't meant to be, because it's kind of to do with like mental health issues. And my second one, which I'll run straight onto, is to do with steam trains, which are one of my passions. So I'll just run one straight on from the other. The first one is just called Nature. Nature doesn't shout or scream at you when you go wrong, are depressed or angry, crying in frustration when life isn't going right. Nature doesn't argue when you've had enough, want some space from everyday problems. It doesn't judge or find fault. Refreshing change when stress happens, allowing space and thought to filter through. It is always there, always listens, with birdsong and leaffall, absorbing your resentment. Let your mind calm down, unwind and take stock. Time to observe, listen to the sounds taking place around you. Nature, a great calmer, without saying anything at all. Okay, and my other one, as I say, it was about steam trains. I've called it Steam Train or Monster. A snake out of the darkness, though this one is not quiet, secretive, sneaking up on its prey. This snake is loud, fast, steam pouring out of its funnel, heard a long time before it is seen. Worming its way round the corner, the engine comes into view. Hundreds of tons of machinery on the move. Whistling like crazy. I am coming, get out of the way. Goes past in the blink of an eye. The coach is rattling behind. A residual cloud covers everything, slowly clearing to reveal the station. Passengers cannot believe what they have seen. Steam train, a live monster, or so it seems, leaves an impression long after it has passed.
Wow, thank you, Vivian. Not
Okay.
very nostalgic, beautiful.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Lovely poems, thank you.
Thank you.
Good, very good.
Indeed. Steve Rushton, please. Steve.
Yes, certainly. Hang on a sec. Yeah, so for those who don't know my project, my plan at the moment, I've been doing a lot of work on the Roman poet Ovid, especially as translated by the great English playwright Christopher Marlowe. And Ovid's first book of poems, Amores, there are about 45 of them, and Marlowe translated all of them. And so my project is to take about 10 of these, and not the best, because that would be hard, but since both Ovid and Marlowe did these when they were kind of in their teens, the standard, I think, varies. So I've actually chosen ones sometimes that I like less, because I think there's more room to maneuver when I do my adaptation of it. So I'm going to read you Marlowe's translations of Ovid, Marlowe's translation of Ovid's Amores 2.12, and then I'll read you my version. This one's about his ability to conquer the love of his life, whose name is Corinna. So it is about conquest. About my temples go, triumphant bays, conquered Corinna in my bosom lays. She whom her husband guard and gators foes, lest archered winner firmly did enclose. That victory doth chiefly triumph merit, which without bloodshed doth the prey inherit. No little ditched towns, no lowly walls, but to my share a captive damsel falls. When Troy by 10 years' battle tumbled down, with the Atreides many gained renown. But I no partner of my glory brook, nor can another say his help I took. I, guide and scholar, won the field and wear her. I was both horseman, footman, standard bearer. Nor in my act hath fortune mingled chance, O care got triumph hitherwards advance. Nor is my war's cause new, but for a queen, Europe and Asia in firm peace had been. The Lapiths and the Centaurs for a woman, to cruel arms their drunken selves did summon. A woman forced the Trojans new to enter wars, just Latinus in thy kingdom's centre. A woman against late-built Rome did send the Sabine fathers, whose sharp wars intend. I saw how bulls for a white heifer strive, she looking on them did more courage give. And me with many, but me without murder, Cupid commands to move his ensigns further. And then my version ditched the idea of conquering a woman and thought about the idea of conquering a certain type of poetry. So this is called Mastered. About my temples sit triumphant thoughts. The words I know are somewhat overwrought. As prose they marched as uninspired slaves to meaning, now as verse they're free and brave, as is their want, or rather as is mine, as freedom comes encumbered in each line, the chains transform to meter and to rhyme, or not, but even then they're never free, as tortured poets torture words for free. Not having income propping up their work, unless in universities they work, imparting knowledge like a benefactor, father, mother figure, seldom actor, far too artificial for their senses, trapped in poetry's sincere defences. Sometimes wags will wage a war on them with weapons born of common parlance, tempered by a craft alchemical against a boulder brass attack as this, unproblematic to repel, with trusted steed and golden apparel, they fight off insincerity and wit with gravitas and truth. But wait, what noise is that? To break their concentration, yelping sounds, what consternation, walls are breached and ramparts scale, the dogs of Doggerel assail, with bite and bark the battle rages, no one wins except the pages, poet's sensibilities are hurt, not mine of course, unless you've plagiarized my verse, and worse, well, nothing less than this dog work, I say believing quite the contrary, but form demands a semblance of humility. Thank you.
Wow.
Very well thought out, that, Steve. Loved it. Some famous poet said free verse was like playing tennis without a net, but I can't remember who it was. Anyway, wonderful. Thank you. Now, where are we? We've got Ruth.
Tennyson.
Please. Pardon? Tennyson. Okay, I'll take your word for it. Ruth, please.
Okay. The first one's called David and Monique, and these were two people that we met on our travels, and they were both sort of escaping really from failed marriages which had ended, and from businesses that they hated, and they became an item. He was an American from Chicago, and she was French Canadian, very fiery woman. Anyway, this is more or less how they met. David and Monique. 12 hours of moonlight. The night bus is travelling to Dharam Salam, carrying both tourists and devotees. A man and a woman fall into conversation, swapping stories about the places they've been, how business ticks over in their absence, how one marriage ended, the other's on hold, how travelling is rather like joining an order, vowing to see the full stream of the world. The lift of flamingos, tailors working from doorways, marble palaces built entirely on sweat. Today, they will visit the Dalai Lama, hoping he'll speak some words they can carry away. They are like collectors, generous with their hoard, sending photographs to growing numbers of friends, reflecting how each met their soulmate on a cold Indian bus. And all right, am I not being heard?
Yes, you will hear you.
All right.
You're coming through fine, Ruth.
Sorry?
You're coming through loud and clear,
Oh,
beautifully.
good.
So
Loud
do
and
you have
clear
another
here.
one for us? You have
Yeah.
another one?
Loud and clear here as well, Ruth. But,
All right.
well, you can't hear us clapping because we're muted.
Okay. The next one is about somebody who set up a cinema, which became known as Arthur's, named after him. Arthur's. When Arthur retired from the theatre, he bought a large Victorian house and let out rooms. He purchased the monkey that rode on his shoulder and planned to share in some way his love of film. 40 was all he could squeeze into the cinema built in his garden. Patrons sank into red tip-up seats acquired from defunct theatres. Then curtains opened on a lethargic fountain and recordings of birds. Arthur typed notes and synopses of his screenings, handed out by the vibrant ex-actress with whom he canoodled when the lights went down. The wheel squeaked on its sprocket as the reels unwound, beaming Un Chien Andalou and Metropolis onto a screen that had mostly served its purpose. While some of the audience said it wasn't for them, a core remained, reserving every fourth Saturday for Arthur's next film. Coming up was The Field, set in Ireland, the story of land and its loss, ending in murder. It was a projectionist nightmare when the dead American came back to life. Apologies at the end, never made up for it. Okay, and oh yeah, this one's a sort of dialogue which is supposed to be between a sort of radio journalist and a politician. It's called From the Radio Car, and it starts off with the journalist. First, who exactly is going to benefit from the... I'm glad you asked me that. It sounds as though you vastly underestimated the... I'll come to that in a minute. Meanwhile, why don't you come clean and... With respect, I don't think that's the issue. It's in the manifesto, is it not? I'm not talking about that. Why can't you give a guarantee that, let me tell you, record employment, fastest growth, stronger nation, great improvement? That is not my question. I know, but what I'm saying to you is you're answering another question, as I've said repeatedly. So the answer would be yes. I have not made any judgment yet. How can we trust you when your estimate is so utterly... I don't recognise that figure.
I think we can all identify with listening to politicians like that, Ruth. Was the film with, I think it was Stanley Baker, did that wonderful dance in big boots, an Irish dance in big boots.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a wonderful film, that. Anyway, Norman, how you doing?
Fine. Can you hear me, George?
Yes, that's coming through lovely.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Well, if I may, George, I'll do the first half with you. I'll do a couple of poems. They're short, and then a couple of really quick haikus. Is that the way you pronounce it?
Yep.
A couple of quickies in between. The first one is well, it was a sad occasion. This is an old one. It's written many, many years ago. When unfortunately, my cousin tragically died, and he was only 32. So I wrote this for my uncle. And all I would ask everyone to do in the call is to just imagine you're standing in a country graveyard. It's the middle of winter, and 2/3 of the graveyard surrounded by large conifers. Yeah, it's called It Is a Time. A shroud of mist hangs around the grave. Lifeless air breathes vivid colour into frozen flowers, arranged so neatly in their pride of place. The snow is deep. Carved headstones stand to attention, yet buried in a majestic white carpet. Suddenly, the gentle firs sway in harmony with the eerie wind brushing aside the virgin snow atop. Invisible doves flap and echo in the distance. A cock pheasant shrieks its territorial call. The calm returns very quickly. It is a time for reminiscing what might have been, but fate has dealt a cruel blow, as solid as the grey granite monuments all around. It is a time to savour, consider the past with respect. It is a time to build for the future. He will understand. Thank you. And just to lighten it up a wee bit, a haiku. I'm not a fan of haiku. It is an unfinished symphony. Is that one? How about this one? You are a wizard, Harry. A wizard on the Wolverhampton wing. That's one for the football fans. Right. Now, the next one is what I would say is thought-provoking. It's very recent. A couple of Sundays ago, I was in a bathroom, and in our house, post-Christmas, with various presents coming in, there's a variety of bubble baths and foam soaks and God knows what all. And I spotted this bath soak, and it was called Enchanted Escape. So that got me thinking. I thought, well, what is the ultimate escape? And what flashed into my mind was the Holocaust. And I apologize now if any of you families have had to endure those horrors. So here it goes. It's called Enchanted Escape. Slipping gently into her foam-bubbled bath, the elderly Jewish lady soaks her aches and pains and soothes her aging worries. She lies still and observes the bath soap bottle at the foot of her bath by the solid silver taps. She contemplates as she reads the bottle branding in dreamy pink and purple pastel colours. Enchanted Escape. This leads her to flashback as a 5-year-old girl. Her enchanted escape from the clutches of the Nazi regime. On reflection, a more engineered escape with her mother and father. She struggles in her mind with the guilt of escape. Unlike the majority, fate smiled down upon her, smiled down on an innocent 5-year-old girl. Each day, she wonders helplessly of her aunties, uncles, and cousins who were bound and herded to travel to the camps, the racist, genocidal, poisoned camps. No words can express this horror of horrors. But for now, today, the Jewish lady sees the enchanted escape as a portal to her safe haven, a portal for her prayers to be sent to all of the lost souls. Thank you.
Beautifully reflective. Thank you, Norman. I think we all held our breath a little bit with that one. So thank you. It's lovely. It's very appropriate for you know, the Holocaust month that we've just experienced.
Yeah.
It's a shame we only think about it once a year. We should think about it more. We don't have Mohammed with us, so we can move straight over to lovely Dominica Jane. Jane, you're muted.
Yes,
No, that's it. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. The first one I'm going to do. I am unmuted. Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, you are muted. Yeah. This week has been designated National Storytelling Week by the Society for Storytellers, of whom I'm a member. So I dug this up from far away. It's called In 2046. They came from miles. They traveled far. They came on foot, by bus, by car. They gathered round, they sat them down upon the floor, on puthies, chairs, and intently listened to the storyteller's soothing voice. No practiced oratory, no firebrand preacher's style had she, nor talk of revolution. Just a soft, meandering medley of this and that. Are you a singer? One of them asked, as she led them in a ballad. You could say that, she smiled. Are you a poet? Queried another. As she spun a web of words, through which she blew speech bubbles roguishly. Perhaps, she said in dreamy tones. Are you a storyteller too? Oh, I do hope so, was her prompt reply. You play children's games as well, interposed another. What kind of grown-up are you? If you're so full of scorn, then tell me, why did you come? Oh, televisions are defunct. Computer systems have all crashed. They said you were an internet alternative, albeit a little primitive. It seemed to the storyteller that they were not far wrong. Eyes brimming with the truth of it. They walked away in single file. No handouts did they clutch, no apps, no printouts, nothing but a warming glow, left by the rhythm of the clapping game, the cadence of a poem song, while stories like beads of pearl threaded through her hairlines, the hairlines of the imagination. They came from far, they came from near. They left at length in pouring rain, a fitting backdrop to the storyteller's soft refrain. I got time for another? Yeah. This goes back to your theme of school days, George. You gave us some themes, didn't you? School days. So this is called an earnest invitation. Attempting to cross a busy road in Leighton one day, eyes peeled on traffic dancing past on deadly wheels, when suddenly from somewhere a shrill call, Miss Grill! I pirouetted round, a trifle startled, but then on seeing it was a schoolboy, nodded, and with an instinctive, oh hello, faking a bright smile to cover up my lack of recognition. This is where I live, That road, the caller informed me, pointing to an undistinguished row of terraced houses. Right, I agreed and hoped I sounded interested. Erskine Road, number 23, he continued with precision. That's nice, I nodded absently, knowing I would instantly forget. You can come to my house tomorrow, he offered unexpectedly. Are you inviting me? I asked, just to make things quite clear, you understand. Yes, come tonight, was his unequivocal response. This was unmistakably a dinner invitation, for which I was amused and touched. Cheeky monkey, I thought. His mum would have a thing or two to say about that. I shouldn't wonder. Then and there, I decided to call his bluff the little blighter. To the scene, knock, knock, on the door of number 3025 Erskine Road. Door slowly opens and I'm greeted by a puzzled, kindly face. Yes? Mrs. Ilias? Yes. We haven't met, but I am one of Kurum's teachers. An anxious cloud dims her eyes before she inquires, Kurum in trouble? No, Kurum's a lovely boy. He's not in trouble at all. I'm here because he's invited me to dinner. Dinner? What dinner? She didn't mean to sound so brusque, and I completely understood. Deciding it best to compromise a little, I offered to come on another day. If it's not convenient, I started backtracking. No, come in. There's plenty dinner. Her voice was now both convincing and sincere. I half melt into the mouth-watering aroma wafting from the kitchen, greatly tempted to shut out the evening cold and the crazy crush of rush hour traffic. But wait, hang on. I was the teacher, full of good sound sense, I hear you rightly say. And the boy Kurum, well, only full of innocence and youthful generosity. So kind of you, Kurum. Another day, I'll come on another day, I lied recklessly. Okay, miss, bye. Blessing his impetuous heart, I dived dangerously, Wonder Woman style, between two whizzing cars, on no greater mission than a trip to the greengrocer's to buy fresh okras for my fish curry.
You realise you made us all hungry now, Jane. You got some more part two? You'll be here in part two? Will you be here in part two? Yeah. Okay. Right, can we move on to Steve Juna, please? Good evening, Steve.
Yeah.
I can't hear you yet, Steve. I think you still got them. That's it. Good man.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
This one's called Jaliv. In the dark of the
sorry, Steve. Sorry to interrupt. We've got a bit of a problem with your mic, so it could be the case that Peter may not record it for YouTube because your mic is very gravelly.
Honestly.
Yeah. Give it a try anyway. We'll try it. Okay.
No
away
problem.
We go.
Okay, mate. In the dark of the all, sprouted around like bombs, patrolling the premises, the crowd emerged in sudden rhythmical persuasion, rocking to the latest sounds of the day. The bass from the speakers, gigantic and appearing like a monstrous machine. The sound bloated out the graceful bass line as this new sound frolic and made me gasp and jump with thrilling anticipation. Boom shaka boom, the jungle sound reached out as the mingling dreadlocks with giants of marijuana rolling in charge of the proceedings like militant warriors. Dreadlock men of different sizes, some short, large, bulky, as out of their mouth the unified name of Jah Rastafari pronounced. With the DJ in a frenzied state, propelling the lyrical word with much determination, as if today was his last day of existence. The outpour of reggae message, beating, looping, and hitting you with splendid precision. I stood there listening to the words of the musical mentor, Barry Brown, singing All Them Wicked, Jaja, I go with them. Phew, what a night of gathering in this the Rastafarian den.
Thanks, Steve. That was perfectly audible. That was fine. That was perfectly audible. So thank you. You got another one? You got another one?
Yeah, I've got another one, sir.
Okay, George. Yeah. Okay.
This one's what experiences in a mental institution. I had several admissions into a mental institution from the age of 17 in 1977. It was very awesome and frightening. The hospital was called All Saints in Winston Green, Birmingham. On my first admission, I was diagnosed as manic depressive and given tranquilizers and antidepressants, eventually to control mood swings. Lithium carbonate was administered along with Chemotrin to stop the side effects. I was given a blood test every 6 weeks to test the lithium in my blood. I saw several psychiatrists and had a very good social worker by the name of Mrs. Jacoby, who gave me clothes and helped me to get my flat in Smethwick, West Midlands. I was a very good person, unfortunately getting the wrong side of the spoon of what life dealt me. I would go to the OT department and do art, also the woodwork department, where I made a stool, bookshelf, which I had in my flat. Every Tuesday evening, the OT department had a disco. Sometimes I helped out by being a DJ, and on one occasion won a dancing competition. I got on well with the OT staff, nurses, and patients. I would visit other wards to cheer people up, especially geriatric wards, where the elderly ladies took to me and my nice ways and my cheerfulness to them. I was very popular with everyone, but still I wanted to get away from the All Saints environment, which eventually I did and came to London in 1985. Thank you.
Right, well done, Steve. That was very honest and very moving. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Lorraine, are you here, Lorraine?
Unmute, right.
Lovely.
This takes me back to my school days as well, with apologies to Sir Walter Scott for the Lay of the Last Minstrel, and so I spoofed it a bit. Is the voice okay? The tone all right? Anyhow, the hike was long, the wind was cold. The veterans did as they were told. Each one looked frail, their heads all white, their hair discoloured overnight. Their worn-out bones, their awkward gait, meant they had not long to wait. Yet while they queued, safe was their fate, lest Pfizer might disintegrate. Some old chap played the violin as the backlog ambled in. And though all culture was oppressed, he was made welcome as a guest. And many tragic tales he knew, rules snubbed by many, not the few. Now, having late learned how to text, his violin strings were rarely flexed. He thought he'd play, "We'll meet again." He knew only that one refrain. The whole throng shouted, "Vera Lynn," as medics pumped them with vaccine. That's what it was like when we queued up to have our jabs.
Very good.
Anyhow, I've got another one that is the pantoum. So it might bore you, but anyhow, it's just fine. It's called Rather Dim. How could he have been so naive? Could he truly not conceive that with the White House swamped in mischief, foul conspiracies defied belief? Could he truly not conceive? Did it never occur to him? Foul conspiracies defied belief. To his henchmen, he was viewed as dim. Did it never occur to him? His digs might have stored Novichok supplies. To his henchmen, he was viewed as dim as they tried to trade with Russian spies. His digs might have stored Novichok supplies, but he could have told his sidekicks he'd mutate as they tried to trade with Russian spies, though the Politburo foresaw his ill fate. But he could have told his sidekicks he'd mutate. He'd dominate a Putin-like left socialist state, though the Politburo foresaw his ill fate. He was loath to increase any US tax rate. He'd dominate a Putin like left socialist state, with the White House swamped in mischief. He was loath to increase any US tax rate. How could he have been so naive? So that was my take on Donald Trump, but I've got more for later anyhow.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to hear your poems, Lorraine. Such a pleasure. So,
oh no, I feel sorry for it. It must be an infliction. But,
well, it was. But
it's a therapy for me to write a pantoum because you always have 2 lines ready and you work around it. So anyhow, I've got a couple better ones for later, shorter, better. Well, in my opinion, anyhow. Thank you for being inflicted. Either way.
Right, can we move on to Alan, please?
Sorry,
we're moving on to Alan now.
Right,
so,
good.
Okay, thank you.
Mine coming after, that's what I mean. So I'll mute myself now anyhow.
Yes, please.
Hi there. This one was a challenge that came through from John Sefton. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight, but there's quite a few memories in here, and it was about writing about where you came from. So it's called I Come From. I come from humble beginnings, from a time not that long ago, not a time of prosperity or easy come or easy go. I come from harsher times with freezing snows in winter and 9-inch icicles and thick ice inside the windows. No central heating, but a gas fire in the grate. At a time when every day of the week had the same dinner on your plate. A time when most people had a cat, but you wanted a dog. And when you went to school, you had a scarf wrapped round your face to protect you from the smog. A time of Christmases with turkey roast. Then for the next week for breakfast, we had dripping on our toast. A time when you grafted hard and cash was king. And if you wanted something frivolous, you had to save for that thing. But by the time you'd saved up, that thing was out of fashion. But then you'd find something else to blow your hard-earned cash on. I come from payday Fridays with cash in an envelope, where what was left on Monday was saved to give the future hope. I come from a time when music was exciting and TV programs were in black and white, with where cowboys and Indians were fighting almost every night. I watched the moon landing and remember President Kennedy getting shot. I loved Hawaii I-50 and of course the Golden Shot. It was a time when Elvis was king, and as the decade went on, music changed everything. I come from the time of pirate radio and pop tunes running through my head, whilst listening to my transistor radio under the covers of my bed. When Horace Batchelor told us how to win the pools, a time of secondary and posh grammar schools. Then at the weekend, you wore your hipster trousers and thought you were really cool. A time when everyone played football in the park, climbed trees or discovered their first kiss, or messed about and had a lark. I come from the front porch and climbed into the back of my dad's car. He'd drive around South London, then I'd get my head down when he reverse parked. I'd take in the views and smell the fresh air as Dad and his mate had a cigarette. I sat in the back without a care. We lived in rented rooms, not in a house of our own. It was what we made of it that made it our home. Thank you.
Wow. Alan, that's proper people's poetry. Wonderful. Fantastic stuff. Have you got another one for us? Or?
Yeah, I have a topical one for this time of year-ish.
Yes, please.
It's called Winter Dogs. Dogs in jumpers at this time of year, wearing the latest outdoor canine gear. Some rustic or festive in red, green or blue. Dogs now the colour that we're not used to. Skin-tight protection with freedom for tails whilst running in parks or on country trails. There are Haute Couture poodles and schnauzers all running around in colourful trousers. Others with flashing collars or antlers, and here's a St. Bernard without his brandy decanter. Nothing makes me smile more than the sight of colourful dogs running, jumping over logs. It is like they're members of a canine club, and then they lay steaming by the fire in the local pub. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Lovely. Can we move on to Jack? Good evening, Jack. Can you unmute first? Push it, unmute. Push it on. That's it.
How's that?
Excellent.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're fine.
First of all, let me apologise, because what I want to contribute tonight is going to take me 9 or 10 minutes, and it can't be done in less time. I've been...
Jack, we might have to do it in 2 halves then. Could you do it in 2 halves?
No.
Because we don't have 9 or 10 minutes, really.
Okay, I'll pass then, because it can't be done in less, and... sorry?
I feel bad. Have you got anything shorter handy?
No. This is what I was hoping to share with you tonight, but I can't do it I can't guarantee. So I timed myself this morning reading it aloud, and it came
listen, Jack, we'll go with it. We'll go with it. So long as you can try and do it, as briefly as you possibly can. Okay?
Yes. Well,
all right.
What I've been doing recently is reconnecting with the James I translation of the Bible. Now that when James of Scotland, James Stuart of Scotland, became James I of England, the king, one of the first things he did was to commission a new translation of the Bible, which is the translation which my generation grew up with. And it's got its own rhythms and meanings, and which are not there in any subsequent edition of the Bible. And I'd forgotten how wonderfully live it is. Now, the earliest of the 3 synoptic gospels, synoptic simply means from the same viewpoint, gospels means good news, and the oldest of the Matthew, Mark and Luke are the synoptic gospels. John is another story altogether, and it's actually my favorite gospel, but was written in Greek. This was written, the first 3, Matthew, Mark, Luke, are all written in Aramaic, which was the language that Jesus spoke himself. So the beauty of St. Mark, Mark was then used by Matthew and Luke to write their gospel. We know, because he just uses wholesale quotes great chunks out of Mark. Now Mark has no virgin birth. He has no baby in a stable in Bethlehem. He has no wise men, no shepherds. He's falling over himself.
Jack, your explanation's cutting into your poetry time. I'm sorry. Can you move on to the poetry?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
The poetry is of the text. I'm going to read the first chapter of the Gospel according to St. Mark. His pacing is that of a Hollywood movie. He does it so vividly, but it all depends on the rhythm and sound of the words, because it was oral before it became written. So here goes, the Gospel according to St. Mark. The beginning of the Gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. As it is written in the prophets, behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare thy way before thee. The voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make his paths straight. John did baptize in the wilderness, and preach the baptism of repentance for the remission of sins. And there went out unto him all the land of Judea, and they of Jerusalem, and were all baptized of him in the river Jordan, confessing their sins. And John was clothed with camel's hair, and with a girdle of skin about his loin, and he did eat locusts and wild honey, and preached, saying, There cometh one mightier than I after me, the latchet of whose shoes I am not worthy to stoop down and unloose. I indeed have baptized you with water, but he shall baptize you with the Holy Ghost. And it came to pass in those days that Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee, and was baptized of John in Jordan. And straightway coming up out of the water, he saw the heavens opened, and the Spirit like a dove descending upon him. And there came a voice from the heavens saying, Thou art my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. And immediately the Spirit driveth him into the wilderness. And he was there in the wilderness 40 days tempted of Satan, and was with the wild beasts, and the angels ministered unto him. Now after John was put in prison, Jesus came into Galilee, preaching the gospel of the kingdom of God, and saying, The time is fulfilled, and the kingdom of God is at hand. Repent ye, and believe the gospel. Now, as he walked by the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and Andrew his brother casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And Jesus said unto them, Come ye after me, and I will make you to become fishers of men. And straightway they forsook their nets and followed him. And when he had gone a little further thence, he saw James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother, who also were in ships mending their nets. And straightway he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the ship with the hired servants, and went after him. And they went into Capernaum. And straightway on the Sabbath day he entered into the synagogue and taught. And they were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one that had authority, not as the scribes. And there was in the synagogue a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried out, saying, Let us alone. What have we to do with thee, thou Jesus of Nazareth? Art thou come to destroy us? I know thee who thou art, the Holy One of God. And Jesus rebuked him, saying, Hold thy peace, and come out of him. And when the unclean spirit had torn him, and cried with a loud voice, he came out of him. And they were all amazed, insomuch that they questioned among themselves, saying, What thing is this? What new doctrine is this? For with authority he commandeth even the unclean spirits, and they do obey him. And immediately his fame spread throughout all the region round about Galilee. And forthwith, when they were come out of the synagogue, they entered into the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. But Simon's wife's mother lay sick of a fever, and anon they tell him of her. And he came and took her by the hand, lifted her up, and immediately the fever left her, and she ministered unto them. And at even when the sun did set, they brought unto him all that were diseased, and them that were possessed with devils. And all the city was gathered together at the door. And he healed many that were sick of divers diseases, and cast out many devils, and suffered not the devils to speak, because they knew him. And in the morning, rising up a great while before day, he went out and departed into a solitary place, and there prayed. And Simon, and when they that were with him followed after him, and when they had found him, they said unto him, All men seek for thee. And he said unto them, Let us go into the next town, that I may preach there also. And therefore came I forth. And he preached in their synagogues throughout all Galilee, and cast out devils. And there came a leper to him, beseeching him and kneeling down to him, and saying unto him, If thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. And Jesus, moved with compassion, put forth his hand and touched him, and saith unto him, I will, be thou clean. And as soon as he had spoken, immediately the leprosy departed from him, and he was cleansed. And he straightly charged him, and forthwith sent him away, and saith unto him, See thou say nothing to any man, but go thy way, show thyself to the priest, and offer for the cleansing of those things which Moses commanded, for a testimony unto them. But he went out and began to publish it much, and to blaze abroad in a matter insomuch that Jesus could move no more openly enter into the city. But he was without in the desert places, and they came to him from every quarter. That's the end of the first chapter.
Okay, thank you, Jack. That's well read. If we can I just say, if we gave everyone that long, we need to go for 6 hours and 20 minutes.
Oh dear.
So
I do have something more frivolous if it's required in the second half and short.
Yeah, okay. Well, we move on now. Sue.
Hi. Yeah, hi everyone. George, I'll just do 2 then, because I think you're a bit short of time, aren't you? So
no, do you can take some time.
No, it's fine. Don't worry. Okay. I'll do 2 because I think they're the ones I really want to read anyway. So
right, okay.
First one is called Panacea, and it's a pandemic poem. Panacea. Almost a year of trees and pacing, walking every day and listening to Bach. I cut my anxious mind strings, set them free to soar above this water and this grass, my precious timeless hour. I walk as waking trees are coming into leaf, long frosted shadows, silent playing fields. I walk when buds have just begun to break, new mornings spread for us like gorgeous cloth of gold. White candles of horse chestnut flowers, bright birdsong riffs beside the stream, the sky, midsummer picnic blue, the dissonance of sirens, urgent, threatening, near. I'm walking now through yellow leaves, bare branches sleep, dark winter silhouettes. Let's not forget, some of our oldest, best loved trees have fallen to this storm. Almost a year of trees, and still we're not out of the woods.
Very good.
Okay. And the other one I'm going to read is called, it's a sort of very twisted Valentine's Day thing, but it's called The Way It Is. This is the way it is. Rain falling on a velvet night, moon wrapped closely in her shroud. The sky poured out on trees and empty streets. Tonight there seems no end to it. Murmured water scatters, soft and spitting at the glass, on and on, insistent midnight symphony. Something is about to happen, some feat of transubstantiation, crimson ripe astringency about to burst. I cannot walk beyond the mirror, open up the padlock of our past, but neither can I peel the layers of this fragile leaf apart. For everything is intricately joined. You are the flip side of my coin, that same currency involved. The rain falls on and there's no sleep, for this is how things are. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Very, very moving, Sue. Thank you.
Very much. Lovely.
I'm afraid we've still got 8 poets to get through, so but don't rush, please, because we just put the 9 o'clock halfway time back, okay? Because I love hearing the poems. I'm sure we all do. Welcome, Mohammed. Do you want to just try your speaker, Mohammed?
Hello, George. Can you hear me?
Yeah, coming through lovely. Now you can mute again, but
great.
I'll put you down there. You're about Oh, 5 poets down, I think. But
Yeah,
we're
I
running a bit
was
late.
late because I got held up a little bit. So sorry about
Okay.
being late.
No,
Sorry.
no, you're not at school. It's fine. Honestly, it's fine. Jim, good evening. You're muted, Jim.
Yeah, I'm muted now. Yeah. Yeah, you can hear me. I don't know. You can't, can you?
Yeah, you're fine, Jim.
Right. Okay. I'll read a poem. When I was a student, courting and whatever, I often, well, not often, but got invited back to girlfriends' houses to sort of see their parents, and it was not very pleasant for me, being a feckless sort of person. It was quite disastrous. And this poem reflects something of that. It's called 4 Prospective Fathers-in-Law. The first looks at me warily. What do you do for a living, son? Since I'm dressed as a clown, I wave a white gloved hand, and out of thin air I produce an egg, which I proceed to break on his head. He says my prospects are poor. The second seems resigned. Clearly he's been here before. I suppose, he sighs, you want my daughter's hand. Not just a hand, sir, I giggle, quivering like a jelly. He shows me the door. The third is frankly a coarse and muscular sort of man. What are your intentions, he demands, with regard to my virgin daughter? I try to answer him in kind. I'd like to give her a jolly good seeing to, I shout, but she won't let me. He snarls and grabs my neck, calls me a plonker. My feet don't even touch the floor. With the fourth, at last I seem to be in luck. The mother's nice and the daughter's real hot stuff. But the father's an unusual sort of man. You're perfect, he says, brushing at his skirt. And your eyes, they're simply divine. I just so love for you to be a son-in-law of mine. I think about it long and hard. Then I decline. That's the...
Brilliant.
Terrific, Jim. Terrific. You got another one for us?
Yeah, a short one.
Okay.
It's called Who Brought Sin into the World? Not I, said the apple. I'm just a symbol. Don't blame me, said the plum. I'm so sweet and so simple. Oh, for heaven's sake, hissed the furious snake. Why not the melon with some seedy agenda? Or me and the figures, the main contenders? Me as the phallus and she the pudenda. Oh, stop all this bickering, said the knowledgeable tree. Let's blame the Big Bang and go back to sleep.
Very good. Very good.
Very good. That's a new twist on the Garden of Eden, I think. Anne,
yes.
Good evening.
Good evening. The first one's called My Excuse. My muse goes south for the winter, seeking her Greek origins. Her billowing draperies are unsuited to this season. A strong cold frost would freeze their folds to her body, encasing it in ice, leaving her poised in the air like an angel in a churchyard. This is not what she's used to. Not the right climate to encourage poetry, dancing, or history, leave alone the other 6. So my muse has packed her bag and gone south for the winter. She'll be back in the spring. Some people's minds are elegant, like Georgian libraries. Asked a question, they select the book they need and give the answer. The most they can hope for in their orderly minds is the quiet satisfaction of finding what they need where they expect it to be. Other people's minds, attics in the family home, are stuffed with information, higgledy-piggledy, piled in a dusty jumble. Mine is like that. When I delve in it, sneezing, in search of a fact, and then when I find it, I'm overwhelmed with delight. Can I give you one more? Very short. Confession. I will not apologize for the slave trade, for ruthless colonization, or for the Holocaust. I am not responsible for these. My forebears did not own plantations or march into foreign lands, and I am no slave owner, no missionary, no Jew hater. I will apologize only for my own failings, for not loving enough, for not giving enough, for not caring enough. For these and all my faults, I ask forgiveness. That's it.
Wow. There is nothing like the honesty of a poet sometimes, Anne. It's a wonderful poem. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can all identify with it.
Yeah.
John Greatorex. John, Coventry, come in, please. Where are you?
I'm on. Okay.
Very good.
Right. This is my Valentine poem for everybody. I'm suffering this heart attack. I'm smitten through and through, and I don't think I'll recover. And it's all because of you. When I was at school at Allains, my English teacher, a chap called Alistair Aston, used to run the Dulwich Poetry Group in the Crown and Greyhound. And what I'd like to read is my favourite poem that he wrote. Has anybody, by the way, got a grandfather clock? Don't all rush. Anyway, this is called A Striking Old Man. When grandfather first came to us, we did not know how old he was, nor how reliable. Regular as clockwork, he wound up our day, and simply by his presence reminded us of things we had not done. Not that he ever complained, and we liked him for that. They had got tired of him at the other house, so he arrived unceremoniously one afternoon in a van. The few things that were his in a case. They said he had been too much trouble. He hardly fitted their way of life. We came to love him. On his face, you could see what time had done, and quite a lot that had defeated time. Sometimes his secrets were unlocked, and then we could see right through to the frailty and simplicity of something that had gone on working through so many changes. His voice was occasionally sharp, but we knew he was just run down, and so we would make allowances. Adjustment was easy. For much of the day, he was quiet, and when we heard him, mostly at night, breathing throughout the house in a satisfied, old-fashioned way. When visitors came, he was good. We saw them admiring his hands. He had a certain veneer. In time, he was part of our lives. The children lived by his looks. He made us all feel at home.
Thank you, John. A very nice poem. Thanks very much. Appreciate those two. Mohammed, good evening, sir.
Good evening to you. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Right, you're on stage, Mohammed.
Good evening to everyone. Yes, thank you very much. I'd like to start with a burst of song, this is a follow-up to the January song. This is a February song. This is by Josh Groban. I'm just going to do a short burst. Where has that old friend gone, lost in a February song? Tell him it won't be long till he opens his eyes. Where is that simple day before colors broke into shades? And how did I ever fade into this life? Into this life. Microphone okay, George? Okay. This is my Valentine's poem. It's about a very confident lover. You know, the narrator is a very confident lover, and you know, he's obsessed with love. People told me, people explained that I am the best lover. They took pains and I didn't run for cover. The girlfriends said that fun was never over. Boy, was I glad to be that lover. I love now with abandon. Isn't that clever? With dances and songs lasting forever. Notice that time does not limit me. Time is cents and dimes, and love is serenity. I'm believing in love. All of it, always. It's tender, not gruff, as they always say. I've got two more. All right, George, microphone okay?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, carry on.
All right, cool. All right, so this one is a praise for Magic Dad. This one's called Praise for Magic Dad, and it's about my dad's qualities. His birthday was on the 21st. Praise for Magic Dad. My dad speaks in magical words. He wakes at dawn to gently pray. My pater knows loving words. He's with the sun that lights the day. My father has wisdom and years. With that, he's become old and gray. He tells us anecdotes and jokes that encourages work and play. My pop is hard-working, it's true. He's jocular like June or May. His advice makes us dutiful. His bright stars simply do not stray. My dad does all constructive things, riding on fabulous light rays. He bids us good night with a smile, so we sleep deep and dream away.
Lovely. Next one.
Okay, the final one is, yeah, I just got one. The last one is by Boris. He's going to do a poem. Boris is here. Yes, this is the head of state. Head of state is here. Boris, February original. Oh, I'm Boris. Won't I vaccinate the teachers? But not when you say, so concerned about a vast economy, I won't bother about the research. And with fate, I will play. Vietnam of 90 million has seen the death of 35, but that's no good to me. I've, from my 60 million, knocked off a cool 100K, and the Tories still love me. So I think people shall, when I spend 120 million, ring my cushy bells, celebrating Brexit hooray, and never sing in my resignation. From the office, I love. Boris says thanks.
Well done, Mohammed. Thank you. Bringing a smile to our face again. Now, can we go to the one and only Ted Smith? Oh, hooray, Ted. You're muted, Ted. You're muted.
Unmute.
Yeah.
Unmute. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks for muting me. I was muted, and then I somehow got unmuted, and I, when I tried to mute myself again, I ended up in a different program. So I left it as it was. Right, here we go. This is a tiger wool, crossbred and punctuated with leopard spots, with pythons overlapping worms, iron webs stretching to every floor. A wet-eyed house, an orange-haired Celtic house, bringing in the new year at weekends, roaring songs of whiskey. This is a Bob Marley Rastafarian music house, drifting Caribbean rhythm smoke through every pore, saxophones permeating the morning night. This is a can't get out of place, with poetry stairways and fresco walls, artists on every floor, where everyone knows each other and knows not to ask their business. This is a nighttime house with a painted panel door where the bell push shouts, "Don't enter." And the thud of flesh sounds and the still stares, Oh, yes, this is a tiger house, and these are tiger walls, where the rent don't get paid, and when the man calls, they're gone. To the cafe, the park, to nowhere. I never lived here at all. Thank you.
Classic, classic. You got another one, Ted?
I might have.
Good.
As I've just... Right. I tell you what, I'll try this. There used to be a magazine run by a bloke called Pete Dixon. And his magazine was Cracks, and it was full of wonderful nonsense poems. This goes. I wrote the poem in 1999. Personalising water seemed fine. Sent it off in haste to Cracks. Never ever got it back. Then in the year 2008, it's in the magazine, a little late. There is a moral to this tale. Do not forsake your poet's trail, because if you think your poem's failed or you've forgotten that you mailed it, there are editors who will keep your stuff, even though the rhyme's quite duff. My only hope is this is accepted and I won't be an ex-Ted. There we go.
Don't call us, we'll call you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Very good, Ted.
Fascinating. What, 9 years? Yeah, 9 years later, it went in.
Well done. Anyway, we're on to Peter now. Peter.
Oh, come on, Peter, now.
Right, I'm going to read a couple of poems by Janice Fixter.
I know her well.
Yes.
I knew her well.
Yes. The first one is called February. Winter is an animal pelt, pegged down, stretched out to dry, laden with long nights and burning lanterns. Outside my window, a cormorant balances on a jetty, holding out its wings, its magician's cloak, each feather separated by the wind. The shortest month is still too heavy to drag across the sky. It is 6 a.m. and the air has frozen down to its bones. We are counting days, the thinness of them, until the ground softens and the geese gather on the wetlands, ready to tow away the skin. And home truths. At 40, my mother threw knives, whetstone knives, sharpened Sheffield steel, which ached to do their work. They glinted in her hand above the chopping board and sliced through vegetables and meat. They reeked of tripe and onions. My mother could hurl a knife with such precision that the rest of us could only stand and gasp, jaws open, as she pinned us to the sunflower kitchen wall. There was never any doubt that she was good. My mother honed her skill with hormones and practiced every Sunday morning while she cooked the roast and homemade apple pie. At 40, my mother threw knives. She never missed. She would pin an unsuspecting target to the larder door by the collar or the sleeve with one deft flick. And I, at 11, was filled with awe by her ambidextrous hands. I encouraged her inaccuracy and was chosen as her assistant. I learnt to stay still. My mother threw knives. It was a harmless circus skill. The words which accompanied them killed.
Very good.
Wow. She was our very own Sylvia Plath, wasn't she? A wonderful poet. Wonderful.
Better
poet.
than that.
Right. Fair enough, Peter. Okay, I've got just before we go into the break, I've got a couple of little poems. The first one is called Time to Remember. This goes. No, it's not. It's not called Time to Remember. Sorry, I've got the wrong page. The first one is called What Doesn't Kill You. We've had pestilence and flood, rain, ice and snow, chastised by Europe, nowhere to go. We might keep our fish, our banks might survive, but many thanks God, I think I'm alive. I might be shut down, expecting tier 5. I can't drink in my pub, savour their ales, But there is no crush from those New Year sales. Though you'll find compensation in this crazy nation, if you're as old as me, you'll get vaccination. This might get completed sooner or later, but I'll watch for the figures and study the data. There we are, that's that one. And the next one, this was brought on by, you know, we had Holocaust Memorial Day last month, and it set me thinking about World War II. And this one's called After the Victory. The sad glance took in the cathedral floor, washed by rain that sparkled the stained glass of fractured windows. A kaleidoscope he left for his small son in Seattle sprang to mind, bringing a silent prayer of thanks that his child was safe from bombing, while his division of tanks rumbled by in a spatter of pebbles on Gothic walls. As tracks ground brick and mortar into dust, in many shattered strasse were weary soldiers, hoping to undress with hungry women, to find false affection for a Hershey bar or a pack of Lucky Strike, whatever it took. For war gives no fair exchange, nor comment on characters drafted in on its winds. Romance is a luxury of peacetime, when cathedrals were once as sacrosanct as marriage vows. Okay, that'll do. It's unmute time. So, and cup of tea time and unmute time.
Go on, I like listen to Irma, so let me listen to Irma.
Okay, nice to see you. Anyway. Right, you're on, Irma.
Right, this is another one from my childhood, and it's called Long Queues. On the way to buy fish from the fish market, a long queue outside the health center stole my attention, and I joined. I joined the long queue. I did not know what it meant, had to find out for myself. Shame to ask the boy in front, had to find out for myself, did not know what it meant. I clean forgot that I was let out to buy fish. But fish and market went out my head. I had to find out what the queue meant. But too ashamed to ask the boy in front. I just keep moving up till I reach the top and look inside the door and see the nurse giving out injection. Too ashamed to run, too stupid. I stayed in line and gave my arm. I got my juk and went home with a mouthful of lies but no fish. Night turned into a swelling pain and gave up the lies. Fever saved me from a beating, but not from a cussing tongue. She cussed me and she cussed me. Oh, how she cussed me and called me names. You good for nothing, you. Serves you right, you too fast. Long queues, did not know what it meant. I just had to know, had to find out for myself.
Very good, Emma.
Can I read another one?
Yeah, you can read another one. Yeah, Ted enjoyed that.
As a child, yeah.
Yeah, this one is not from my childhood, but it was when I was sort of like bringing up my children, you know, and you know, I was like a single parent, didn't have any money, so I used to walk all over Thornton Heath. I was living in Thornton Heath then. Used to walk all over Thornton Heath with my 3 children, one in the pushchair, a little puppy beside him, and one child on each side. So I think the men used to watch me every day, you know. So anyway, I've written this poem. It's called Sweet Talking. With predatory intent, men watch her as she pushing pram. With 3 children and a dog, they see no man. They see no man and make a move. Darling, you're looking nice and sweet. You always look sweet and nice, but today you're looking special. in your long multicolored cheesecloth skirt, from clip-clop sounds coming from your clogs. On ankles slim you walk as if you own the streets. And when your dickty little toes peer out from leather slippers, you arrest me. Since I watching you, I see no man. And you is the kind of woman I want to walk down Taunton Heed with. I am craving for your company. Let me come round and visit you. What do you say to that? Thank you.
Well, nice to be an object of desire, isn't it?
Yes. I don't know.
Or maybe not.
Never been one. Good night, all of you. Thanks for being there.
Yeah, cheerio, Ted. See
God
you
bless.
Mid-month, hopefully.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah.
See Ted. Bye, Ted.
Bye. Now, Steve Rushton. Steve.
Yes.
Are you around? Right. Very good. We're all ears.
All right, just give me a minute. Stay night and run not thus. Inspired by Christopher Marlowe's translation of Ovid's and Maury's 1.13 and by President Trump's last night in power. Dawning skies propelling backwards, light arising as his hopes descend to darkness where at last he sees an end on some eternal golf course of the damned. A love by bold transactions parting, room to room in anger, venting, smarting, searching for a friend who's absent, gone with all the promises to move the world to him. In truth, he says, did I believe a word? And who am I to use that word? As foreign to a tweeting tongue, as fools to thought devoid of greed, though heard by millions all in thrall, no rationale could dim such love. Resolve, where can it go? Not Mar-a-Lago, where I'm due, a dawn inviting and my entourage preparing final flying. White House once, at least they'll say, I ruled the world and had my way for far too often. Troy would draw a line between the ancient myths and history. As Jove departs, a day arrives so different from the last. No Io or Callisto to deflower, no ill-gotten gains enjoyed by way of power, hidden in a tax return as secret as abuse of power. Poor Europa, Dinae Leda, raped by one, half bull, half swan, half golden shower, half dark cloud who reigns upon the innocent, all gone this God's impunity, before some trembling lump of flesh, not his, who waits in trepidation for her Lord's dull penetration. If he can, life takes a turn. A man once loved and feared but burned by bright democracy of day, with all its counting and recounting, never adding up to much the way he's wanting. Thank you.
Incredible.
Thanks, Steve. I think he probably thought of himself as more Marvel than Marlowe, didn't he, really? Tudor reference there. Now, we're moving on to, is Ruth has gone, isn't she? Is Ruth gone? Yes, Ruth has gone. Mohammed, are you still here?
Yes, I am. Absolutely.
Can we have one of your little masterpieces, please?
Okay, so it's good. Is it one per person?
Well, just, yeah, it depends on the length, obviously. But, you know, you're fairly short, aren't you, normally? You don't go into great monologues normally.
Right.
So you'll be fine.
So,
Okay.
all right. Okay, here we go. So this is about snow, the recent snowfall that I was observing just through my windows, and it really charmed me. Yeah, so Sunday morning snow. Morning showed no signs, but later it fell. Flakes large that made me sit up and wake up. On a Sunday morning when church bells rang and base instincts were held back and trussed up. Dawn showed me a bright golden eastern glow, and later east clouds were pleasantly pink. After 10, snowflakes provided a show. I sat for the best view with a hot drink. Not the sun, but snow whiteness came to bless. I hoped it would not vanish in a swish, but the snowfall later slowly grew less. Though heavy snow was my true devout wish. I went for a walk in the slush and chill. Fine snowfall comes about through my sweet will. A sonnet. Right, and thank you. And I'll read The Hill We Climb by Amanda Gorman, the inaugural poetry reading, the inauguration. The Hill We Climb by Amanda Gorman is the first part and the last part. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. And the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with. Every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the golden hills of the West. We will rise from the windswept Northeast where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. In every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country, our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Wonderful words from that young woman.
She's so young, Amanda Gorman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic.
She did well. Jane, do you have anything for us, please?
Yes, I'll read one called Memories for Valentine's Day. I wrote it for a friend of mine. Valentine, is it Valentine or Valentine? I never get it right. Valentine's, yes? Valentine's Day is almost gone. No chocolates, no cards, no flowers for Agnes. But does she sit down and weep, lie prostrate and wail? Hell no. With the thickest, richest slice of carrot cake from Stratford's indoor market, she curls up beneath her duvet and tucks in. The first bite doesn't disappoint. It melts upon the tongue, lifting her as on the crest of an oceanic wave. The taste of nutmeg, cinnamon, and ginger of the second bite evokes one of those splendid crimson sunsets lingering over Grand Bay every morning at 6 p.m. precisely. By the time she's polished off the last crumb, she's right there with her mum in the carnival band, clutching the protective hand, gingerly swaying, eyes now tight shut. She's whisked to a place where spellbound she listened to tales by moonlight of tricksters, Brer Rabbit and the Nancy, up to no good as usual. Thus sated and soothed, she falls asleep on that Valentine's afternoon to the hypnotic rhythms of tropical rain. Casting off her light clothing, she dips her toes in the crystal waters of River Montine, there to bathe and bask once again in the sun-drenched, skinny dipping innocence of childhood.
Lovely, Jane. Sounds like someone I know in parts there, part of that poem, who's not sitting not too far away from me.
Oh yes, yes.
Any more for us?
I thought I'd stop there because we're short on time.
Yeah, we are a bit actually.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. We'll move down the list. Steve Juna. Steve, have you anything for us?
Can I read two quick ones?
Yeah, okay.
This one's called Brothers. My brothers, look into yourself and realize that acts of criminality do you no favors. You do not have to be a criminal to gain the honor of the big man. Show humility amongst fellow men and make sure people have something good to say about you. Turn around the tables of rottenness, which has gone on for years and years. Show the God-gifted potential which you possess. Go ahead and be an example. Introduce it with codes of overall majesty, so that little ones won't be little Billy Boyos or little Harrys, but will be children of genius and prodigious status. So my brothers, turn around the years of dismantling and for once, don't be seduced by sexual advantages, but use your intelligence and knowledge to earn your right to be seen as a well-defined individual. Thank you. And this one's called My Experience of Racism. As a young man growing up in the Midlands, my plight was no ordinary one. From the age of 10, I had to bring myself up because my parents split up. I lived in a large 5-bedroom house. When my mum left my dad, my brother and sister, both younger than me, were sent to Jamaica to live with their grandparents. Many things was going through my young mind at that time. Losing my mum and brother and sister, I felt overshadowed and rejected. However, growing up in West Bromwich, where my father worked on the buses, I was very resourceful for my age. I'd wash myself and clean my shoes for school. There was no constructive plan to take care of Steve, no next of kin, just my father, who was dealing with losing my mum, who had run off with a tenant. I cannot say I experienced serious racism and only occasionally be called names. I was a person who mixed easily. I had friends white and black, but due to family separation, I spent a lot of time with my white friends at their homes playing. I grew up in West Bromwich and had a lot of respect from white people, basically an indication of who I am today. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Steve. There's a lot of material in there. A lot of material in there. You could get loads of poems out of that material.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lorraine, have you anything for us, please?
Can't hear you.
This is with apologies to Baroness Orksey and her play on the London stage in 1905. So some people might be familiar with just the 4 lines I'm going to read anyhow. Similar to it, not entirely it. They seek it near, they seek it far. That 70% proof AstraZeneca. Be it in Penge or be it in Bath, there'll be some unaccountable allergic aftermath. You know what the original one was? Do you know the original play? The Scarlet Pimpernel. They see him here, this well, to me it's the Seneca one. And a slightly longer one is called One More Statistic. You might sigh with relief when your cupboards are full of stock. Home deliveries run around the clock. But the high cuisine, online art class and the kip suddenly run amok. The plumbing's paled and you'll need to find the stopcock. Everyone knows YouGov covets the cryptic, but you could cheer yourself up with a little known useful statistic. Though 75% of the UK try to stay optimistic, they don't have a clue about what to do by going ballistic. So your system spiked and you're trapped in a drought deadlock. You're hardly solvent and half your wherewithal is in hock. But rescue rears in an online ballpark estimate, and you're now one of YouGov's fumblers fearing their fate. Bang on time, eager trainee dons mask and shows off his skill. He screws, twists, tugs and twirls, he knows his drill. He's the master of challenging any perturbing plight, with pliers or waving his wand, tap and water unite. Now for the bill. It makes you feel ill. But you believe you should offer a much fairer deal. He'd plead for an urgent comfort stop at work on the go. So he must now know your charge is 10% discount. Quid pro quo. Okay, there we are. I had to have the plumber last week and he wanted a comfort stop in my flat. So I charged him as well, more or less.
Very witty, very good. Good move there, Lorraine.
You understand.
Right. Alan, do you have anything for us, please?
Yes, I do. Because it was such a glorious day today, I actually sat and had my lunch out in the garden, and a bee came and landed on my teapot. And so this was a poem that I wrote some time back now, but it's called The First Bee. Just reminded me of it. It's the middle of February. Looking into the garden from his window, he saw the first bee of the year, zigzagging its way past a daffodil, making its way up the garden, 6 inches above the blades of grass. Suddenly the bee spins, winged by a random raindrop, then another, this time a body blow. He comes to rest, or maybe laid to rest, in the heather in a rockery. The mild winter has brought him from hibernation early in search of sustenance. The shower stops, the rain's early victim's body nowhere to be seen. Spring is still waiting round the corner. After all the winter squalls, the flattened crocuses will stand again. The yellow leaves of the forsythia will start to punctuate the gloom, and the magnolia's buds will burst into bloom. Everything in the garden waits in hope that spring will arrive soon.
Amen.
Lovely, lovely, very seasonal. Thank you, Alan. You got any more for us, or?
Yeah, I've got another short one. I don't think I've read this before.
Okay.
It's called Squeamish. I look away when giving blood. I don't like to see the needle going in. Every day on every news, we see the needle pierce the skin. As older people across the nation now receive their vaccination, as the government tries to stop the COVID tide, I feel my stomach churn inside. Mine won't be until the 5th wave. When it comes, I will be brave. I'll close my eyes and grit my teeth as the needle sinks beneath to pump the new vaccine in. I will try not to faint, and this will show how brave I ain't.
Thank you for being succinct and on the ball. We don't have a lot of time, I'm afraid. Jack, do you have anything for us?
Hello, can you hear me now? I've come back.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. This is as short as the other was long, and I'm sure all of you or some of you are familiar with it. It's an 1815 traditional song, probably Irish of origin. When I was a bachelor, I lived all alone. I worked at the weaver's trade. And the only thing that I ever did wrong was to woo a fair young maid. I wooed her in the winter time and in the summer too. And the only thing that I did that was wrong was to keep her from the foggy dew. One night she came to my bedside when I was fast asleep. She laid her head upon my bed and she began to weep. She sighed, she cried, she damn near died. She said, "What shall I do?" So I hauled her into bed and covered up her head just to keep her from the foggy dew. So I am a bachelor, I live with my son, and we work at the weaver's trade. And every single time that I look into his eyes, he reminds me of that fair young maid. He reminds me of the winter time and of the summer too, and of the many times that I held her in my arms just to keep her from the foggy dew.
Thank you, Jack. Wonderful. Wonderful. Reminds me of the time I used to go to folk club. Jim.
Please don't.
Yeah, this is a fairly shortish poem. Relationships between poets and poems are often a bit strained. It's called My Poem. My poem was intended to be a mere plaything, which would chafe at the very thought of poetic fame, as it made its way so trippingly down the page. But in the course of time, it began to despise me. Contrary to all my wishes, it began to revise itself again and again and yet again. And then, no longer immune to the knowledge of its own inbuilt flaws, all my fault of course, it began to claw its way across the page like a cat in a hissy fit rage. Things got even worse. My poem began to curse its own DNA and became so bitter and twisted, so blistered by its own venom and self-hate, it told me to fuck off and spat in my face.
Well, that's one response.
I identify with that.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Any more for us, Jim, or is that? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, that's it. Yeah, just that.
Okay, thank you very much. That's lovely. Now we've got Paul. Oh, sorry, no, we've got Anne. Sorry, Anne.
Yes.
Anne, please.
I've just got one for you.
Thank you.
Called Look from Above. Look down on the past. The little boats crossing and recrossing the water to take the troops from Europe to take them home. Look down on the present. The little boats crossing the sea in the other direction, away from despair and poverty, looking for a home. Look down on the senseless hatred which will not let them in. Look down on the smug, the self-righteous, who will leave others to die, calling the past defeat victory, calling the present defeat victory. Look down on the acts of terror which kill the smug in the towns which will not let strangers in. Look down on the world's leaders who are leading us back to war. Look down on the world's leaders who are letting the fire and the storms, the hurricanes and the earthquakes foretell the end of our world. Take refuge in art and music. Can the arts be enough to give us faith in man's goodness, to take us away from the horrors, to take us away from the hatred? Look down on the world and wonder.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anne. Wow, thank you. Lovely poem. Peter.
Hello.
Hi.
Following on from Alan talking about giving blood, is a Janice Sexton poem, Intravenous. Drive a nail into the soft tissue, the underbelly of elbow, until you hit a vein. Drip in a smelt of iron filings, a thick mineral slurry of bleached anchor, scrapings from a railing, an iron bar used in last week's robbery. They taste the same, smell the same, boils down. I am a ship run aground, a child scratching at the gate of the playground. I am a window about to smash.
Wow. Wow. Is any more from Janice, or is that
I
it?
can give it, yes. So we have another one from Janice.
Yes, please.
I think it's my favourite one. It says, at the trumpet mender's house.
Right.
At the trumpet mender's house, sound is not muffled. He's bold as the curve of the earth. We wait while he searches through the strained air for the right note. I am staring at a shelf of books. You, a child, sit out of reach. At the trumpet mender's house, music is kept in jars on the mantelpiece, and tiny brass screws, the one we lost, have found their way here. This is where all the broken things come. He threads raw voices back together, cauterizes leaking valves while the embers bristle in the fireplace. He cleans out the mouthpiece that I encouraged you to fill with solos, and eases out the stubborn dent of a child kicking and refusing to come home. The trumpet mender hands the trumpet back, the tarnished bell polished until it shines.
Wow. Thank you, Peter. Lovely, isn't it? Very nice poem. Yeah, try and follow that. Okay, I just want to leave you with a reminder of the late President of the United States. This is one I wrote after the 2,000 children were separated from their parents when they crossed over from Mexico. And during the election campaign, Trump said, oh, well, there's only 500 now and we are feeding them. There's only 500 without their parents and we are feeding them. I hope Mr. Biden does something about it. It's called A Wall of Tears. Oh, say, did you see by that dawn's early light, the child torn from her mother as they crossed in the night? Did you hail so proudly at the twilight's last gleaming, the eyes of the child from which tears were streaming? Where are her bright stars after perilous flight, or those of her mother removed from her sight? Oh, see the broad stripes of every steel bar, you're condemned by the world from near and from far. Is this the land of the free, the home of the brave, that can treat a small child as less than a slave? Can this be the place where the free man can stand, that puts children in prison and sees refugees banned? Why must they conquer, and whose cause is just, when thousands of babies sleep in the dust? Those babes see no shore through the mists of the deep, huddled up close in a warehouse to sleep. No soft warm blanket, no comfort in hand, no sense of freedom in this cold-hearted land, where they sing their proud anthem in voices of thunder, while thousands of families are just torn asunder. So hollow their motto of "In God we trust." Look hard to see any home of the just. That's that one. And the next one is called Long Road. Long Road. When the Romans left, all we had to deal with were the Saxons. When the Saxons left, all we had to deal with were the Vikings. When the Vikings left, all we had to deal with were the Normans. They did not leave. But we had to deal with their kings. When we had dealt with the kings, all we had to deal with were the lords. When we had dealt with the lords, all we had to deal with were the factory owners. When the slave owners left you, all you had to deal with were the missionaries. When the missionaries left, all you had to deal with were the colonizers. They were the British. When the British left, all you had to deal with were your rulers. Oh, what a long, long road to trudge down. There we go. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's it.
Wonderful.
It's been a nice night. Thank you, everybody.
Great.
Thank you, George.
Well done. Thank you, George.
Thank you, George.
I'm glad you didn't treat me like that MC, you know, that council meeting.
Never, George.
You didn't deserve it.
Yeah. Oh.
We're going to meet again in the Wednesday. Is it Wednesday in the middle of the month, Peter?
Wednesday.
Or, oh, Friday, sorry.
Friday.
Two Fridays' time, isn't it?
Yes, it'll be the 19th.
The 19th.
Yeah.
So a chance for everyone to write their Valentine's poems.
That is very true. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I just want to
it's
say
been
thank you.
Sorry, Jane.
I really look forward to this evening. Thank you so much. This evening, particularly, I enjoyed Irma always laughed because I just see myself. I wish I was naughty. I wished I was naughty. I loved it that Irma was naughty as a child. It's wonderful. Looking forward to seeing the publication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice one.
And I thought we had a lovely variety of poems tonight, didn't we? It was really, really enjoyable. Thank you, everybody.
Funny.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night,
See you
everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
See you again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Steve.
Yeah.